Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Global Executive MBA GEMBA webinar series by Ahmedabad University. We are so glad to have you with us for a very special fireside chat titled Leading Change in Pharma Lessons from an MBA in Pharmaceuticals Alumni. This session is designed to give you a real world perspective from someone who has successfully bridged the gap between functional expertise and strategic leadership in the pharmaceutical industry. Allow me to briefly introduce our two guests for today. It's my honor to introduce our speaker today, Anuradha Nair, Head Clinical Quality and Training at Dr. Reddy's Laboratories and former Head of Corporate Quality Assurance and at Biocon Limited. With 20 years of experience across inspection readiness, integrity, and global compliance, she's been a driving force in compliance to regulatory requirements and organizational quality transformation. We also have with us our moderator for today, Mr. Devaya BN, Vice President, Sales and Marketing at Global Calcium. With over 18 years of experience in B2B pharma and nutraceutical markets, he's an accomplished leader in strategy, business development, and marketing operations. I now invite our moderator, Mr. Devaya, to take over and set the context today for today's conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Mehak. Do we start? Should we wait for a few more participants or?
I think we can begin. Yeah.
We can begin.
Join.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. It's indeed a pleasure to be here and moderate this timely conversation. As we all know, the pharmaceutical industry is undergoing a massive transformation, not just in science and technology, but in leadership, regulation, and strategic direction. With increasing focus on compliance, digitalization, and patient centricity, professionals need to be equipped not just with domain knowledge, but with a strategic mindset as well. And that's where management education, especially an industry aligned program like Global Executive MBA, plays a key role. Today's session will reflect exactly that journey, from domain to direction, from operations to leadership. So let's hear from someone who has walked that path. So as Mehak has already introduced you all, Anuradha Nair, thank you for being here today. We all know that you have had a fascinating journey in the pharma world, spanning roles across clinical research, quality assurance, regulatory affairs, and training leadership. I'd like to start by asking you to tell us a little about your own career trajectory. Where did it begin? And what were the key turning points that brought you to where you are today? Over to you, Anuradha.
Thank you so much, Devaya. First of all, I'd like to say it's an absolute honor to be here and to be recognized by my own alma mater. I've just recently completed my MBA or my Global Executive MBA from the Ahmedabad University. So it feels wonderful to be back over here. So career-wise, if I have to speak, I would just start by giving a brief about what I've done in my entire career before jumping into the defining moments as you asked. So I finished my master's in biochemistry from Mumbai University. And I started my career in a very different manner. I started off as a lecturer, and I used to be teaching biochemistry and microbiology to BSc students back in a college in Mumbai. While I was doing that, I was also pursuing and trying to get some career path into the corporate, and it happened with Reliance Life Sciences, which is a company which at that point of time when I was there back in 2006, it was a company that specialized in plasma fractionation products. So you had multiple variations of what is there in your plasma, like your albumin, factor rate, and all these things. So that was my first company, was there for around 2 years. Parallelly, I was also pursuing a course in clinical research and pharmacovigilance through an organization called PEXA, Pharmaceutical Experts Association. And when I started reading about and learning about clinical research and pharmacovigilance, and it completely fascinated me in terms of what it had to offer. And the fact that, we were doing clinical research in India was something absolutely new to me. And along with that, with my degree in life sciences, as well as in this particular course, it opened a floodgate, and I got my next job in a company called Tata Consultancy Services. Now, I always, whenever I say TCS, people raise their eyebrows saying that, what were you doing in an IT company? But many of these IT companies also have their BPO arm, where a lot of pharma outsourcing also happens. So while at TCS, I was working for a pharma giant called F. Hoffman La Roche, and they had outsourced a lot of their clinical and pharmacovigilance activities. In fact, one of the impressive aspects of that was when we started the engagement, it was hardly around 80 people. And then by the time I left that organization in 2012, which was roughly around 4 years, the entire team was around 660, and more than 99% of the adverse event case processing for Roche was done by TCS. So that was the impact that we had over there. After that, I worked for a company called Accenture, again, an IT company with pharma outsourcing, and I used to act as an auditor, auditing all the different functions within or all the engagements that we had with pharma companies. Some of the example was Novartis, we had Merck, BMS. So these were some of the customers that we had over there. My big break into the global pharmaceutical company was with Novartis. This was back in 2013. And within Novartis, I had this wonderful opportunity. I was there for 6 years and provided my services to the company across 2 different cities, that is in Hyderabad and in Mumbai. And the best part was, because it's a huge company, there's so many roles that you can do. So I worked as a clinical QA, I worked as pharmacovigilance QA, and also as commercial QA, and then many other, work in between that I've done. So it kind of increased my perspective to what a global pharma company has to offer to you. In my last stint, that was with Biocon, I started off over there as the head of clinical and pharmacovigilance quality. And I was there for overall 5 years. And during this particular career, I took up additional responsibilities. I came out of the proper QA role and I took up training as another role. And it gave me a lot of challenges and at the same time, a lot of learning as well. And in my last stint over there, I served as the head of corporate quality assurance team over there. And it kind of gave me an exposure into the entire gamut of what quality assurance has to offer, which is GCP, good clinical practices, pharmacovigilance practices, and also manufacturing. So it was a very wholesome role to start with. And in my current role with Dr. Reddy's, I am the head of clinical quality and training within the global clinical management team here. And I've started this around 7 months back. So I'm still taking my baby steps over there. Now, this is a brief of what I've done. And in terms of what were my career defining moments in my journey, the first one is, foraying into leadership. Throughout my career, I always felt that, I'm a great individual contributor. And I think a lot of us do face that challenge when it comes to work. We always feel that, it's good to lead yourself, but when it comes to leading people, it becomes very challenging. And many of us, we just don't want to foray into that activity. But in Biocon, I started off as an accidental leader. And as I kept taking up additional roles, what happened is that the number of people that were reporting to me increased. So I started off with just 2 people reporting to me. So it was like from 0 to 2. And then eventually when I was leaving, I had around 28 people reporting to me. And at one point of time, I found it very challenging because, leading yourself is pretty easy. You can plan your calendar, you can plan how you want to do your work, what are your priorities, how you want to do it, when to take up what. But doing that for a team of 28 people was absolutely challenging. And what initially, I hated the idea. I was pretty against the idea of doing that. But as I started doing it, that's when I started realizing that here within me, I also have a good leader. I was able to identify a lot of things that I didn't know existed within me. And one of the very beautiful moments for me was an award that I received. So within Biocon, during the Women's Day program, we had this thing called Wow Mentor Award. And it was, they didn't have any panel. They just said that you can vote for anyone who has kind of touched you, touched your career in a very positive manner. And I just have, I just remember having read about this particular award and didn't give much of a thought. And eventually, I think just one day before the ceremony, I received a mail from my HR team saying that people have nominated me for the award and I've won it with a huge majority, and that I was called to accept that award. And I was like, my God, I didn't even ask. I didn't even ask people to vote for me. And here I was being awarded this. So yeah, going from an individual contributor to a leader who was celebrated and people thought about it is something that really stayed on with me. And I think that is one of the most beautiful career defining moments of my journey.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Indeed, I mean, I think it's an amazing blend of academia and industry exposure and experience. That you have. I'm sure in time to come, you'll be a great leader in the industry and add a lot of value. However, you have set the context very well. I'm sure the aspirants and the participants here who are at a juncture to make a decision to take up an MBA course themselves, I'm sure there's a lot of questions that would be already there in their mind. But of course, let me ask some specific questions which could help them make these decisions. Meanwhile, also, what I would like to specify is if any of our participants have any specific questions, please feel free to put it in the chat box, or at the end of the, after my questions, we would also give you an opportunity to ask questions directly if you have any clarifications. Well, moving on. The next thing that I want to ask you is, we all know now that you have had a fascinating career, spanning global quality roles. So again, you've already answered what has been the most defining moments, or rather the most of the turning points in your life. But still, I see that you have leadership quality in you. You're a natural leader. So is there one specific defining moment in your journey so far that you would like to highlight to our audience here?
Okay. As I said, I kept taking up additional roles in Biocon. Throughout my initial part of my career, leading up to Biocon, I was always into pharmacovigilance and clinical quality. And I remember I had joined Biocon as a head of clinical and pharmacovigilance quality. And I was doing my work. I was happy with what I was doing. And I remember receiving a call from my boss one day, and he called me, asked me to come into his cabin, and I was like, okay. And then I remember he was there, and along with our HR team head, and he said that, Anuradha, one of our the person who's leading the training team has decided to move on. And I was like, oh, that's quite he was a great trainer. So I was like, it's a loss to the company. And I remember him telling me that, why don't you take up the role? And I was like, well, to be very frank, it is not something that I have wanted for myself. I've never thought of myself as a trainer, or for that matter, somebody who's interested in making training as a career path. So I'm not interested, and thank you for considering me. And I remember my boss being very, visually very upset and telling me that, never turn down an opportunity when it is given to you. At least think before you say no. And I was like, okay, give me a day. I'll come back to you. And in that day, obviously, when you are posed with such a question and when somebody has pushed you to kind of think on it, you try reaching out to some of the people that you look up to. And I remember going back to a lot of my friends and my colleagues and my mentors who have guided me through my life, and reaching out to them, and they were like, hey, it's going to be something good and you'll be good at it. Why don't you take it up as a challenge? If you're not well, you can always go back and say that it's not my cup of tea. Why don't you take it back? So I was like, okay. And then I remember going the next day, having that conversation, trying to understand what are the roles and responsibilities, eventually taking it up. And I remember taking up, when I took up the role, the team that came in also had some amount of hostility towards me because, they were very comfortable with the previous manager. And now here I was. And I don't know whether it is the right thing to say over here, but then people usually have a bit of a problem when it comes to a female, a woman leading a team. People have their preconceived notions about they being a little emotional and all those things. But I think that also adds on. And I personally felt that, the fact that I'm a woman and I wear my emotions on my sleeve and I'm very upfront about things, it kind of helped me very well to gel with the team. And eventually I remember they were my best supporters. And if I'm not mistaken, back in 2023, we received an award for the best training content that we had. The program that we had implemented, right from what's industry, the regulatory mandate to what is the best industry practice, including the job rotation rules that we had put in place. I remember we had applied for an award with Eminence Business Media and receiving it. And I felt absolutely proud. And that was the day I realized why my boss probably reached out to me for that. So yes, that was.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for those detailed insights. So, how have you seen the role of quality leaders evolve over the years? You've been for a while in the industry, and what does leading change mean to you in the context of such a highly regulated and competitive environment in the pharmaceutical industry? If you
Oh,
can.
that's a very nice question. I'll start with a very funny anecdote, and I'll not name companies over here. And so this was with one of my previous organization, and the people over there usually used to say this: QA क्यों है? Loosely translated in English, why is QA even there? And to a certain extent, I do empathize with these people because, in many instances, what I've seen is that quality leaders tend to be highly, highly, highly conservative. And sometimes reasoning with them becomes very challenging because many a times the answer, you start doing that why analysis. And at the bottom of it, what you come across is, I did this in the past, and I've been doing this for the past 10 years. So this is the best way of doing it, even in future. So, and no changes are required. So this is what I've heard from a lot of quality leaders. And these are some really renowned figures within the quality organization in the Indian pharma industry. So this is what I saw as a typical attitude of a quality leader when I started off my career. But I think the first blow to this thought process was the concept of digitalization. Now, I'm sure many people on this group might not be aware of what is the difference between digitization and digitalization. So I'll just take a couple of minutes to even explain this. So digitization is when you take a hard copy paper and to scan that, and you now have a PDF copy of that. That is called as digitization, converting a hard copy into a soft copy. Digitalization, on the contrary, is developing systems, solutions in a manner that paper never gets generated in the first place. So many of the quality systems were eventually digitalized. So where we used to have paper change controls, now we have change controls on various systems. You have TrackWise, you have something called as Aviva Vault, and many other systems that are coming up. So I think the first challenge that these people faced when they were kind of forced to think in a different manner was when many of these companies, the big pharma companies, moved into a digitalized format. And what started globally back in 2011, 12, that's what I've seen with Novartis, one of the companies that I worked with. They started digitalizing around that time. But I have seen the same thing happening in Biocon somewhere around 2019-20, where COVID was one of the reasons why many of these companies were forced to adopt digitalized solutions. So I think probably the times, COVID, all of this has kind of changed the mentality of this. Now, another layer to this is also the fact that, the regulations. Earlier, all the regulations said that, you have to do everything, audit everything, monitor everything. But now when you think about, when you pick up regulations also talk about risk-based auditing. Identify what are your history in terms of the past audits that you've conducted, the kind of findings you've got, identify the risk associated with the program, how risky the entire activity is, what is the impact on the in compliance, and your past experience with the audits, and then decide how frequently you want to audit it. Similarly, when you have
But I think for the benefit of audience, I would like to interrupt you a little bit here.
Okay.
I think we are getting to a little more technical, and I understand that the wealth of knowledge that you have is going to add a lot of value to all our listeners here, to audience here. But I think I'm inquisitive, and I can't wait to ask you this question. With all this
Okay.
background you have, academia, industry, experience is one thing. You have exposure as well, right? You work with multiple global organizations handling several roles. The most important question that is popping up in my mind is, at this stage in your career, what prompted you or what motivated you to choose a Global Executive MBA? Right. So I think that is something which we are all excited to understand from you or hear from you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for stopping me there, because, when it comes to pharma, I just get completely blown away. But yeah, coming back to your question on what prompted me. So first and foremost, I believe in continuous education. No matter what your field is, you need to always go back and sharpen your knife, because if you want to be good, if you're a chef and you want to be good at cooking, you always need to have a sharp knife. Similarly, if you're in any field for that matter, you need to keep going back to the classroom, because there are new technologies, new concepts, skills, everything that keeps coming up. So you need to keep yourself updated. And I'm a strong believer in this philosophy. And one thing I could see throughout my career was that, though I had a good understanding of what quality does, I could never understand or comprehend about what happens on the other side of the activity. Like, say, for example, if I'm a part of the clinical QA team, I know what QA does, but I don't know what exactly are the pain points for the clinical operations. So, it's always the fact that I did not have the full idea. And at the same time, we also know that we have a finite amount of time, finite amount of hours that are available, and you can't go about asking for sabbatical into all the different areas where you can go and understand everything. So that is probably the reason when I decided to kind of invest into this MBA, and I felt that GEMBA would help me in giving me a better perspective about what other functions are. Lastly, but certainly not the least, my previous company, Biocon, had a collaboration or a partnership with Ahmedabad University, where they were sending people from a few select people into this program, and they used to finance it for us. So all of this put together is why I decided to do my MBA.
Excellent. That's really good that you pursued this GEMBA. How did the program complement your industry experience, especially in quality leadership, right? After going through this program, now that you've completed this program, earlier, generally, people do MBA and then start working, right? So when most of us, even when I did an MBA, probably I had not started, I was working, but I had not started working in the industry as such. So there are several functions that we don't, that we cannot relate to, or we do not have an experience from. But as a professional, working in the industry and then doing a course, uh, how did you see the program complement your industry experience, especially the leadership roles or strategic roles?
Okay. As I said, one of the key challenges for me was to understand what happens on the other side. So quality is something that I was well versed with, but what happens on the other side is something that I lacked. And one of, right in my first set of lectures that I had, we had a session on business communication. And the professor over there, the first thing that he emphasized on was this term called empathy. And what he always said is that, if I have to give the crux of the learning, uh, empathy is very important no matter what you're doing, where you are. I mean, you might be the CEO of the organization, but the moment you start showing empathy towards other people, everything becomes a lot more accessible. People start becoming a lot more collaborative towards you. And what this program also did was give us a high level of understanding. Like, if I'm from clinical QA, obviously I do understand a bit of clinical, but I didn't understand what happens in the finance organization, or for that matter, IT, what happens with digitalization softwares, how do they implement that? And many of the courses over here gave us a very high level understanding of how these functions work together, what are the challenges that they face. And obviously, another thing that was taught to us was how about public speaking, how to make effective presentations, how to communicate in a manner where there is no ambiguity left. Because people usually see what your expressions are more than they focusing on what your comments are or what your content of what you're speaking is. So today, when I go to my cross-functional teams for any proposal or anything, one thing that I do is understand their point of view very clearly. And I also share my care and concern in terms of how that particular, I always do my research well in terms of what I do, and how my proposal is going to impact their work, and how I can help them in, ensuring that the change is more acceptable by them. And what I saw is, with these two things put together, the fight in the boardroom, the typical function versus QA fight started reducing. It started moving into active debates where they were like, okay, now what about this problem? Now what about this problem? How do you want to address this? So what was a typical fight in terms of, no, I outrightly reject this idea. I don't want to implement it. Uh, the question now started focusing on how can we do this? How, what help can you do with, to help me in implementing this? So essentially, from QA क्यों है into, okay, QA, let's see how we can work this together. And it did put me on the map where people started looking up to me as a quality leader, and it really made me feel very happy. So these are some of the key things that I saw as a change, and this is what I also learned from my GEMBA program.
Great, that's good to know. So we all know that, of course, the traditional classroom environment is different. But when you're a working professional and choosing to do an MBA like this, uh, can you just enlighten us how different the GEMBA classes here that you attended were from compared to the traditional, learning environment that we all go through, in our regular conventional classrooms? How different it was here, right? If you can enlighten us here.
In terms of what, the way my program was structured, we had around 7 residencies. Residencies was done 1 per quarter. And of these 7, 4 were in person at the university. So we used to be there 9 days in the university. And everyone, even though people were from Ahmedabad, we used to stay in a hotel so that we can work together on our assignments and projects. And the 3 online sessions were split over 2 weeks for 4 hours per day. To ensure that we are not completely taken away from work, because if you're physically there, you can give your focus and attention, but when you're doing it online, there's always disturbances. So they kind of made it easier for us by splitting it over 2 weeks, 4 hours each day. And the best thing about the program was that our professors, uh, uh, I can't rave enough about them. All of them were highly professional, highly skilled, highly knowledgeable. Many of them, I know I know my degree says Ahmedabad University, but I'm pretty sure that 99% of the professors had some relation to IIMs. So most of them were affiliated with some IIMs, and they were teaching in other colleges also. So they come with amazing background. The kind of knowledge that they imparted to us was amazing. And most of the courses were were all case studies based. It was not the traditional classroom session where somebody is dictating to you, you're writing it down. It was more or less case studies. And many of these case studies were the investigations done by these professors also. And they had very good insights, and they would share it with us. And another very good thing about this entire course was our university building. The Ahmedabad University is one of it's a beautiful campus. And some of the areas that we used, we had this knowledge labs where some of our courses were done over there, so that it encouraged more collaboration. There were places for us to kind of play games also during our courses, which kind of made it very interesting. And some of the assignments were also debates where some of them were really intensive, but at the end of the day, we all came out a lot more knowledgeable.
Excellent. Any impressions on professors? Like, what was your impression on the professors there? Were they treating you like typical students, or or like professionals? What kind of environment they created to you all in the classroom or during their sessions?
Oh,
Any specific moment or any special professor, or any anything that you remember that's very fresh in your memory?
okay. Uh, we had, all of them were very nice. They were, they always treated us like professionals because they knew that we were not the typical students. And at least in my batch, most of the people that we were working, we were there, all were either plant heads or head of quality. So we had senior directors, associate vice presidents. So they, the professors also took cognizance of that. And we never had this, professor and student kind of a relationship. It was more collaborative in nature. And some of the standout professors were Professor Rakesh. I Unfortunately, I can't remember his surname. We had Samvit Kuril. We had a finance professor also. I'm somehow very bad at remembering names, but all of our professors, brought something to the table and have always given us wonderful learnings. So yeah, all of them were very good.
Excellent. That's good to know.
And if
So
I may
after,
add one thing,
yeah,
I would
please.
just like to add one more thing. Our faculty, other than the teaching faculty, we had these coordinators also who were also very great, because after every session they would come and they would ask us feedback on how the professors were, and is there anything that they can do better, anything that they can add to their session, anything that we wanted them to do more of or less of. And one good thing about the entire program was that whatever feedback we gave to these coordinators would always taken up. And whenever the same professor, so if there was something that we didn't like about a professor and we gave a feedback, we could always see an improvement in the next lecture whenever it happened. So yeah, the feedback mechanism that was put together by the coordinators team was also excellent.
That's good. So the next thing that I want to ask you is about peer learning. How did peer learning shape your journey in this program? Were there any standout moments where you learned just as much from your classmates as the course itself?
Oh yeah, there were a lot of these moments where many of our classmates. So we were lucky enough to be a pretty sizable batch. We were around 13 of us, 12 to 13 of us. And yeah, a sizable population did come from Zydus at that point of time. And we had people who were into manufacturing. Some of them were into marketing. Some of them into quality, like me and another colleague of mine. And what happened is, in many of these case studies that we were doing, many of the people who were sitting along in the classroom had, were a stakeholder in some of them. And when we used to discuss in the class and they used to give their perspective about what they were thinking when they were doing that particular deal, it kind of helped us gain a totally different perspective, because that was not even there in the book, and we kind of learned it from our colleagues. So yeah, it was there have been many such standout moments. And yeah, so it kind of it was a great learning from peers also. And we always used to do our projects also together. So whenever we used to sit and do these projects, and at that time we had a healthy debate in terms of what needs to go in, what needs to be taken out. And these debates kind of helped us learn a lot from each other.
I'm sure you have built a very good network of cross-functional individuals from different companies, right? So,
Yes.
though pharmaceutical is a small world out there, but being from quality and regulatory departments, there's less chance that you get to interact with the industry peers, right? Unlike the sales marketing team, where they meet around in the market and all that. So I think that's a good platform probably for you to network as well, right, with your industry peers.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Good to know that. Yeah, the next thing that I want you to highlight upon is uh, can you share any specific instance where you're learning during your GEMBA program that has directly helped you make a decision, a challenging decision, right, at your workplace?
Yeah. Okay. Uh, okay. This is a fantastic story, and I'm so glad you asked me this question. So within quality, there's a term that we use called quality culture. And that's the buzzword now. So no one speaks about quality and compliance in isolation. What we speak about is everything being a part of the quality fabric of the organization, and which is loosely mentioned as the quality culture. Now, while I was with Biocon, there was this entire need. We were having a lot of USFDA inspections, and time and again, we used to get this question on, what are you doing to improve the culture, quality culture of the organization? So there was a decision, a kind of a committee that was set up, and it was unanimously decided that we need to do something to improve the quality culture of the organization. Now, with the term quality culture and all, it sounds very abstract. What do you do? How do you do it? And, basically, what is the outcome that you're looking for? Can I say that, if I had less findings in the previous USFDA inspection versus what I have today, is it a better quality culture? May not be. It might be 100 of other, sometimes the quality of the inspector may also be bad, because of which the person did not get much findings, or a better quality inspector came in and they gave us much more findings. Does it mean that the quality culture is bad? So these were some things that were, that we were debating on when we were on that committee. And eventually, I do remember my boss telling me that, Anuradha, you have to take this up, decide something, put a charter together, tell us what you're going to do, what is your start point, what is your end point, what are the milestones that you're going to achieve. And I was like, for a topic as abstract as quality culture, what do I do? And I remember having a discussion with my team, and we all discussing about what to put, and nothing being clear. And around the same time, we had this residency also that was coming up, and I think I did mention his name, Professor Samved Kuril. He was teaching us organizational behavior, and while he was teaching us about organizational behavior, I started kind of loosely correlating what he taught us as concepts in quality behavior or organizational behavior to quality culture. I mean, for example, if I have to speak about something very specific, there's something called as Abelin's paradox, where if somebody at a leadership position has put up something saying that let's do this, you're in a forum where you're trying to pull out ideas, and somebody says that, okay, let's do this. In a way, what happens is everyone, and especially if this person is from the leadership team, what happens is everyone kind of starts saying that, oh yeah, that idea is good, that idea is good. And even though people might have different idea, they will not come up with that. So this is some of the concepts that we were taught in this organizational behavior. And I mean, it's a long story put short. I used what I learned from this organizational behavior, tried putting it up as a part of my quality culture. I put a charter, put some milestones, and I said that these are gonna be the yardstick to measure the efficiency of implementation. And it was accepted by the leadership, and we got the stamp from them. And I remember we were applying for an award in 2023 for quality culture transformation from this eminence business media. And we put all the concepts that we had thought about, we put it over there and we sent it. And Biocon won the award back in 2023 on quality culture transformation. So what I learned from the concepts of organizational behavior was put up. And I remember having this conversation with Professor Samved, and he was completely ecstatic in terms of, what they were teaching us as classroom sessions was actually put into use. So this is one of the most wonderful, success stories that I could speak about from my MBA classroom.
Excellent. I think this is really an interesting point that it's an advantage when you're a working professional and parallelly you're also pursuing a course like this, how you can, practice what you learn, right? That's more important at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think I'll have one last question and then we can, move on to the audience if they have anything more. So what advice would you give to mid-career professionals, especially from our pharmaceutical industry? Particularly women, because I see you championing women empowerment as such, looking to step into strategic roles in pharma industry. So what advice would you give them, right? How this choosing an MBA like this, GEMBA like this, could help them take up the next mantle of leadership, right? So if you can just give that advice to our mid-career professionals, what would it be?
Okay. I mean, these are some of the advices that I have received from some of my colleagues. I think you use the term mid-career professional. So I'm talking about women aged between around, in their 30s or 40s. I think it's a time where most of us are going through midlife crisis. Your parents are aging, they need your focus and attention. Your children are just growing up. They are probably attempting their board exams and they need your attention. They are also into their teens, so they have your typical temper tantrums. And then your spouses, who are also probably around your age bracket, they are also themselves going through the midlife crisis. And being the woman in the family, everything comes on you and everyone banks on you for that support, the emotional comfort that you provide them while they're going through these challenges. And what people don't understand is that you yourself are going through a lot of challenges, because being a professional and you have your own challenges in office, and then coming back to the organization, coming back home, you have to deal with all these things. Somewhere, sometime, you will falter. So if you fail, being a good daughter or a good wife or a good mother, sometimes you need to be good to yourself and say that, hey, it's okay. Be kind to yourself. That's the most important thing. So if a day your maid decides not to show up, it's okay if your floor is dirty. It's okay. Show up to work, get your work done, and prioritize. Your priorities can change on a daily basis. You need not prioritize work above your family or your family above your work every day. Understand what your priority is for that day and prioritize that and focus on that completely and get it done. Knock that off your to-do list. Network. I can't emphasize this enough. But networking is a very, very important skill, very, very important task that you need to focus on. I think we as women, the moment we have finished our to-do list for the day, we just switch off, go home, and we start focusing on what is there at home. What we miss out in between happens to be our networking skills. So while all these things are there, try to find avenues in terms of networking. Men have a better chance at networking because they can go for their sutta break or their drinks break after the work. Unfortunately, we women don't have that opportunity unless you decide to do so. I'm not judging you for that, but then try to network, try to find avenues to network. And many a times, some of my work has been done not because I was so and so, I was the head of so and so. No, it has happened just because I knew the person who was responsible for that activity. A good friend of mine, I just picked up the call and said that, hey, please get this done for me. It's important for me. And the work was done not because I was a leader, but because I was a good friend. So networking is very important. Never ignore that. And try to educate yourself, because there are so many things that are coming up. Your AI and machine learning and all are going to take over. So having a basic functional experience of how this works is going to help you. So whenever there is a possibility, try to invest in yourself, try to learn. If possible, do a GEMBA. It did help me, and I'm sure that it will help you also. So yeah, continuous learning is something.
I think the learning continues with your GEMBA peers as well, right? Because I'm sure you have a group, and then the continuity of learning is always there, sharing knowledge and all that. So that's another advantage, probably, doing this course as a professional.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So that was an incredible conversation with Anuradha. Thank you very much, Anuradha, for your patience and enlightening our audience today. I'm sure our audience are eager to know more, ask more. However, I think I'll pass on to Mehak to see if there are any important questions in the chat box, one or two, and then let's see how it proceeds. Yeah, Mehak, over to you, please.
Yes, I think right now we don't have a question, but if anyone would like to, ask a question, they can either post it in the chat or maybe unmute themselves and also ask. I don't.
The way I always say that, it's only in two instances where people don't have any question. One, they've understood everything that was being discussed, or they have not understood anything. I hope it's the first thing
I
that happened
think,
to me.
Anuradha, you spoke so passionately, I think, about your journey and you answered everything in detail. So I'm assuming it's the former one. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think, I think if there are no questions, perhaps then we could just close the discussion.
Yeah, I think if there are no more questions, thank you so much, Anuradha, for sharing such candid reflections from career insights to your learning journey through this GEMBA program. Your experience truly shows what it takes to lead change with clarity, competence, and confidence. To everyone attending this session, if you have more questions about the program or would like to speak to our admissions team, please feel free to connect with us directly and schedule a one-to-one conversation. Thank you. Thank you, one and all. Over to you, Meg.
Yes. So on behalf of Ahmedabad University and IDEP, we extend our heartfelt thanks to Anuradha Nair and our moderator Devaya for this thoughtful and inspiring conversation. And thank you to all the participants for joining us today, Saturday evening. We hope this session has given you valuable insights into what's possible when technical expertise meets strategic education. We look forward to seeing you at our next GEMBA webinar session. Until then, stay curious and keep leading. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Miss Mahek. Hello.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Good evening. Actually, sorry, due to some network glitch, I was unable to ask a question. I was preparing for the same. So, if you proceed, can
Yes.
I move it a question?
Yes, yes, yes. Please, please.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Anuradha ji, for giving your time and just making this weekend a very good initiative. Secondly, thank you, Ahmedabad University, for arranging this beautiful and impactful webinar. So I was having a short question related to both Anuradha ji and Ahmedabad University. Like for taking admissions into executive courses at Ahmedabad University, what sort of experience is it required? Like, is it a gap of, like, you must be having an industry experience of 2 years or 4 years or any number, and then currently, if I'm working for example, if I'm working now in a clinical department, and then if I switch myself for something where my MBA knowledge is required, for example, consulting or marketing or any other where my executive MBA knowledge is required, how will the university help me in that case? So these were two of my questions. I would like to get the answers from you.
Okay, I think they just on the experience bit for our GEMBA program, you need to have a minimum of 5 years of relevant work experience. So in this case, in the pharmaceutical industry. And I think, sorry, your second question, I think, was directed to Anuradha.
As such means, like, how can my experience help me to switch from my current role to a role where actually MBA is required? So, like,
Uh, so what's your current role, Tejas, right now?
I'm currently involved in clinical operations.
Okay. I think, Anuradha, would you like to take this question? Perhaps I think how the MBA could help him.
Okay. So Tejas, what an MBA can help you is understand what are the opportunities that are available over there. When I did this MBA, I did not know about a lot of the career opportunities. I didn't know what the supply chain management does, for example. I always thought that, they just have to ensure that we get good vendors and they'll negotiate the price and everything else just comes in and everything is business as usual. But I think in multiple classes that we had on supply chain management, what we realized is that it's far beyond just getting the vendors on board and awarding them contracts and getting a rate card with them. There's a lot more that happens over there. So what MBA helps you in understanding is what are the opportunities that are there, because they touch, especially the course that I did from the GEMBA course that I did from Ahmedabad University. They gave us a perspective into every part. So we had a course on finance, we had a course on clinical, on patents, on supply chain management, on AI and machine learning, how it works. In fact, we were taught how to make many of these programs also. So there were, you name it within the pharma company, within the pharma organization, we had manufacturing operations also. So they kind of help you understand how the entire pharma industry works, what are the different opportunities that are available. And if you find something interesting, what it does is tells you what, how, and a very high level of how that thing works. But there's, it has to be complemented with your own interest in that area. and you kind of focusing on what needs to be done, and then you can move into that. In my organization, in my previous organization, that is Biocon, we did have a lot of sabbaticals that were provided to people to kind of get them a better understanding of another function. So I mean, it's a mixed bag. Part of it is given by the university, part of it you can use it within your own organization. Look out for sabbaticals, and it kind of helps you. So I hope I've answered your question, Tejas.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Most welcome.
Thank you so much, Tejas, for asking that. Thank you once again, everyone. Thank you, Anuradha. Thank you, Divya.
Thank you.